This is Pastor Merle speaking to you from Bethel Lutheran Church, informing you of a couple things that we are experimenting with as we make our way through this pandemic experience. The good news is the numbers continue to decline, and so we're looking at that. The bad news is we are still trying to keep our in-person worship experience to about 45 minutes, and so that's challenging for a place like Bethel that has a rich tradition of music and the word and liturgy. So one of the innovations that we're going to try for a little bit here is to omit on Sunday mornings the epistle reading and do that as a send-out devotional for the week. The epistle reading in liturgy is, in the Lutheran experience anyway, is not tied to the Gospel or the Old Testament or the Psalm. It is a standalone reading that sometimes relates, that is meant to be a contiguous reading of one of the letters of Paul or John or the other letter material in the New Testament. So I'm going to just simply read that with a couple of comments around it and maybe a question or two for you to ponder in the week to come. This week we read from the 15th chapter of 1 Corinthians. Have you ever had a conversation with someone where they simply kind of step back and become real for a moment or muse a little bit about their life experience? That's sort of what we have from Paul this week. And so Paul writes, "Now I would remind you, brothers and sisters, of the good news that I proclaimed to you, which in turn you received, in which you stand, through which you are being saved, if you hold firmly to the message that I proclaimed to you, unless you have come to believe in vain. For I handed on to you as of first importance what I in turn received, that Christ died for our sins in accordance with the Scriptures, and that he was buried, and he was raised on the third day in accordance to the Scriptures, and he appeared to Cephas, and then to the 12, and then he appeared to more than 500 brothers and sisters at one time, most of whom are still alive, though some have died. Then he appeared to James and to all the apostles. Last of all, as one untimely born, he appeared also to me, for I am the least of the apostles, unfit to be called an apostle, because I persecuted the church of God. But by the grace of God, I am what I am, and his grace toward me has not been in vain. On the contrary, I worked harder than any of them, though it was not I, but the grace of God that is with me. Whether then it was I or they, so we proclaim, and so we have come to believe." Paul, being a little self-revelatory, a little self-congratulatory maybe, but also being real. It's not me, it's the grace. And I give what I've received. And remind you of all the places that God, through Jesus Christ, has made contact with us. I hope in this week, as you think about the words of 1 Corinthians, you will take a little time to look around you and to see where it is that Jesus meets you. God's blessings. Enjoy your week.